A few moments later, the sunlight slowly revealed itself and chased away the darkness brought by the night. Hajin was seen coming out of the tent while yawning. Naun, who was guarding outside the tent, then noticed it shortly after. She asked, "Are you awake?" Hajin replied yes. He said that he wanted to check whether she was guarding well or not. Naun was then annoyed to hear that. She asked, "What kind of person do you think I am?" Hajin said that he was just joking. Actually, after spending 5 weeks here, he got used to only sleeping for a short time. Naun was surprised to hear that. She guessed, "Maybe it's because you have always been alert." Seeing Naun sitting on his motorcycle, Hajin then told her to get off. Naun could only cluck with annoyance at that. She then thought of something. She asked, "By the way, don't you feel bothered by your long hair? Your hair is almost as long as mine." Hearing that, Hajin said that this was indeed uncomfortable, but, if he cut it and his hair fell into the hands of the cursed sorcerer, it would be a problem, so he just left it alone. Naun was then surprised to hear that there was also a cursed sorcerer here. Hajin confirmed it. He had seen one cursed sorcerer who carried around a doll. Hearing that, Naun immediately felt worried. She felt that they should be careful. While Naun was deep in thought, a breeze then blew which blew her short hair. She then called Hajin, and asked, "How far is Seoul St. Maria Hospital from here?" Hajin was then confused to hear her suddenly ask that. While pointing in a direction, he then said that Seoul was there. He felt like it would take about half an hour if by motorcycle. While feeling confused, he then asked, "Why did you suddenly ask that?" While smiling sadly, Naun said that it was nothing, it was just that, her mother was born there in 1972, so, she was curious. Hearing that, Hajin then knew what she meant. He then immediately said that this mock area only covered the area around here, so she couldn't go to the center of Seoul. Naun was just silent when she heard that. She didn't feel so sad, she just regretted it. When daylight arrived and everyone was awake, the sound of a very loud sword clash was then heard. The sound of the clash of swords came from Suho and Naun, who were now dueling. Naun constantly attacked Suho until he seemed overwhelmed. Seeing that, Naun then smiled happily. This indicates that she has adapted well to the environment of this world. As Hajin said, moving and using mana can help her adjust. Now she feels much more comfortable than before. If it continues like this, she will soon return to her original condition. But, her joy did not last long, because she suddenly saw a grin on Suho's face, and before she could even react, Suho suddenly increased the strength of his attack which made her fall to the ground. She again lost to him. This really frustrated her. Suddenly, a jacket was suddenly thrown towards her which made her surprised. It was Jonghak's jacket. While feeling confused, Naun then immediately asked him, "Why did you give me this?" While acting as if he didn't care, Jonghak told her to cover herself with it. He asked, "You are a woman, so can you be more careful even for days?" But, his words made Naun upset. While Yona and the others were watching their argument, their attention was then distracted when they heard the sound of a motorcycle. Seeing Hajin who finally came while carrying something behind him, their eyes then lit up. They knew that it was food. Seeing their enthusiasm, Suho then laughed. He then told Hajin that he had worked hard. While running towards him, Naun then asked, "What did you bring today?" Hajin did not answer and told her to check it herself. In contrast to Naun's shameless attitude, Yona herself felt a little embarrassed at the moment because just hearing the sound of the motorcycle engine made her hungry. After that, they immediately took out the food that Hajin had brought and put it on the table. Their eyes lit up when they saw the food that looked very delicious, and they then happily ate the food. After eating the food brought by Hajin, Naun felt that if this continued she might not have an appetite for food from the real world. Hearing that, Hajin just told her to eat a lot and stay active. It was a way for her to quickly adapt and increase the mana capacity in her body. Naun also felt like that. But, she felt a bit strange. Every time she used mana, her body suddenly hurt a lot. It felt like her heart was going to explode. Hearing that, Hajin explained, "It's because your mana gathers in the heart, you have to use it to release the pressure." Hearing that, Naun then asked him, "Then, why only we fight, and you don't?" While eating his food, Hajin casually replied, "It's because I've done it many times before you all came." Naun could only chuckle in annoyance hearing that. Hajin smiled at this. This was something he would not tell them. Actually, he also got some kind of buff. The buff came from his constitution, body that can't use mana. As a person who is unable to use mana, his body permanently absorbs the accumulated mana. Thanks to this constitution, even without doing anything, Hajin now got a strength increase of 0.002, also, thanks to the concentrated mana here. He got an additional 0.25 EXP since more than 50 days ago. This really gave him a sense of satisfaction. This was already like passive income for him. Yona could only feel confused when he saw him suddenly acting strange. Hajin did not notice that and continued to be immersed in his thoughts, because a year here was only about an hour in the real world. Time was not a big problem, but in 4 weeks, the past would begin to erode, so they could not continue to be here. That was also the reason why they were only here for 4 weeks in the original story. After a while, they finally finished eating all the food. Seeing that, Hajin then took out a map again, and said to them, as I explained before, we will secure all the crystals. He then began to explain the plan. He pointed to a point on the map and said, Kim Min Gyo at the water tower in the northwest, and Ju Parang at the tower in the south. We will first attack these 2 weakest locations. The main operation will start in 3 days. The team will be divided, led by Kim Suho and Shin Jonghak. At night, we will use this route to attack. After that, Hajin then continued to explain the plan he had compiled to them. They did not interrupt and listened carefully to the plan he explained, until finally 3 days later, when the full moon shone so magnificently, Shin Jonghak's protest voice was then heard. He protested why he was paired with Hajin. Moreover, only the 2 of them. Hearing his protest, Naun then scolded him, why are you acting like a child? Just do as ordered. Yonghan also said, Hajin must have a reason for dividing the team like this, don't you think? Unlike Jonghak's team, which only consists of 2 people, Soho's team has 4. Even though they said that, Jonghak still seemed to feel annoyed. He then called Hajin, and irritably asked, why do I have to go with you? Hajin was speechless at his attitude. He thought, Kim Min Gyo is a mid-tier hero-level enemy, so teamwork is important. Kim Suho and the others probably wouldn't go as far as killing, even on this replica of the past. Ending his thought struggle, Hajin then explained the reason, it's because I'm the weakest here, so a group with the strongest, which is you, would be the most reasonable balance, right? His words seemed to trigger some kind of reaction in Shin Jonghak. With a feeling of pride, Jonghak then did not protest anymore. He said that his great self would sacrifice his own happiness just this once. Hearing that, Hajin then invited them to immediately move now. After a few moments of travel, Hajin then saw the appearance of the water tower. Kim Min Gyo should be inside. After the 2 of them got off the motorcycle, Hajin then turned the motorcycle back into a suitcase. He then turned to Shin Jonghak and said that they told the others that they would be finished in 2 hours, so he invited him to hurry up, but Shin Jonghak's face looked uncomfortable at the moment. He couldn't believe that he would be riding behind Hajin. Hajin was then confused at that. He then asked if it bothered him. He even added a handle on the back for him to use. Jonghak annoyedly said that it wasn't about the handle, it was about the fact that he had to ride with him. But, in the middle of their argument, someone suddenly interrupted and asked who they were. They were then surprised and immediately turned to the man. The man said that this was the Lord Asura's territory. Outsiders were not allowed to be here, so he told them to leave here immediately, but the 2 of them seemed to ignore the man. Jonghak exasperatedly said to Hajin that they were caught because of him. Hajin then denied it. Because he was the one who made the noise first. The man then got annoyed at the 2 of them ignoring him. They really didn't know who they were dealing with. While pulling out a double stick, the man casually said that they were like puppies barking at tigers. Jonghak then got annoyed at his insulting tone, and the ending was as you can guess. The man immediately fell without even being able to put up a meaningful fight. The 2 of them didn't care about the man anymore and continued discussing their actions. Hajin felt like there were about 20 guards in the water tower. He said he would take care of the Lakers outside and asked him to wait here, but Jonghak didn't seem happy about it. He was upset because he dared to tell him to wait. Seeing that, Hajin calmly explained to him, we must first take care of the Larkies, so, the strongest party can fight without being disturbed, right? His words seemed to convince Shin Jonghak. After that, Hajin then started the action. In the forest where they were, under the trees there were 2 men who were guarding, but the 2 men seemed to have no vigilance at all, because they were guarding there while occasionally falling asleep. Suddenly, something very fast then shot towards one of the men, and when his partner woke up from sleep while yawning, he was then shocked and horrified by what he saw. Without his knowledge, his colleague was suddenly lying lifeless with his head covered in blood, and when he was about to look for the source of this, Something very strong suddenly shot through his head which made his fate the same as his colleague. It was certainly the work of Hajin. He managed to kill the two men secretly without warning anyone. The two men were not his first victims, including them. He had killed a total of 5 guards since his action began, even though he knew they were not really alive. This was still mentally exhausting. While looking at the corpses of the two of them lying lifeless, Hajin was silent while feeling sad. Hajin felt like he would never get used to this. He could only sigh helplessly thinking about it. While looking towards the other water tower where the Suho group launched their action, Hajin wondered if they were okay. Meanwhile on the other side, with a shocked face as if in disbelief, Yona then looked in a direction.